Here's the full catch-up because apparently this story now requires a field guide. It's going to be long, but I'm going to include everything. I criticized neurosurgeon Dr. Betsy Grunch for using her medical title to market monetized health products. That included a paid partnership promoting compounded GLP-1 microdosing to people who do not medically require weight loss, plus other wellness products and advisory roles where clinical authority is being used to sell consumer products. I also discussed public open payments data showing industry payments, including payments from Spinology and the public reporting from the Gainesville Times about a Department of Justice investigation involving Longstreet Clinic, specifically naming Dr. Betsy Grunch, illegal remuneration allegations, the anti-kickback statute Spinology, and medical necessity concerns. All of those videos are in one playlist on my page. I encourage you to watch them. I did not say she was guilty. I said the timeline and incentives deserve scrutiny because they do. Her response was not to address the substance. Instead, she made a surgery scrub-in video saying, "Never seen my haters here," then used OnlyFans comments to discredit me while rushing to make this AI slop that says no mean girls. Very normal behavior from someone trying to convince us her issue is professionalism. So I asked a very simple question: where is here? Because multiple sources have told me she was the only physician not offered a contract after the NGHS and Longstreet merger resumed. Her announced practice partner, Dr. Carl Kip Schultz, is no longer being marketed as an active partner in the way he originally was. Her own clinic website has referred to him as being on sabbatical, but according to sources familiar with the situation, he is not actually practicing there and is remaining with NGHS to return in June. Then came the hospital privilege issue. Publicly, people keep pointing to the Georgia Board of Medicine website and saying it lists NGHS. Here's the problem. That profile is self-reported. It does not automatically update every time a hospital relationship changes. So if the physician does not update it, the public-facing profile can lag behind reality. What I have said, and what I'm still saying, is that based on multiple sources, she does not currently have hospital privileges anywhere. Her contract at NGHS ended earlier this year. She has applied and been denied at Northside and Piedmont, and she's trying to get privileges at St. Mary's, but I'm told that that will also be a no. The only place she is currently able to operate is Gainesville Surgery Center, which is an outpatient ambulatory surgery center. And no, that is not the same thing as being credentialed to operate at a hospital. A current patient publicly commented that Dr. Grunch told her directly that her only surgery rights at the moment were at Gainesville Surgery Center. That patient chose to go elsewhere because she needed a larger surgery in a hospital setting and did not want to worry about whether her surgeon could continue care in an emergency. That is a valid patient safety concern. If your spine surgeon can only operate at an outpatient surgery center but cannot admit, transfer, or continue your surgical care at a hospital if something goes wrong, patients deserve to know that before consenting. And let's be honest about what kinds of procedures we're talking about. This is not the complex high-risk neurosurgery image she markets online. Patients and staff have described the current outpatient scope as lower risk, lower acuity spine cases appropriate for an ASC setting. That is very different from the "I'm scrubbing into life or death neurosurgery while my haters watch from TikTok" online aesthetic. I have also received comments from people who identify as NGHS staff saying she is not operating in their ORs, is not taking neurosurgery call there, and is not being called by their teams anymore. Another person who identified as an NGHS employee adjacent to the OR said the response to her leaving has been relief, not outrage. I've talked with nurses, surgeons, other healthcare workers, hospital admins, spouses of surgeons. I cannot stress enough how I have not received a single show of support by anybody associated with Longstreet Clinic or NGHS publicly or privately. Again, I'm not asking you to take anonymous comments as gospel. I am saying these comments are consistent with what patients are now publicly saying and what multiple sources have told me privately. Now let's talk about Bambi. Bambi has publicly shared that after her cervical spine surgery with Dr. Grunch, she developed obvious drainage and worsening signs of infection, but says she was repeatedly managed with stitches over the draining areas, dismissive messages, and rounds of antibiotics while continuing to get worse. By the time the infection was finally addressed, Bambi says it had tunneled into the cervical hardware. She then required washout surgery, 6 weeks on a PICC line, prolonged antibiotics, and eventual hardware removal for what was described as chronically infected hardware since the original procedure. But that was not the end of her complications. According to Bambi, during one of those follow-up appointments for the cervical infection, Dr. Grunch asked how her prior lumbar fusion was doing and expressed concern when Bambi reported that her back was still hurting 2 years later, telling her it should not still be bothering her and suggesting new imaging. Bambi says she completed that imaging, heard nothing, and became so frustrated waiting for answers that she made a TikTok publicly pleading for Dr. Grunch to step away from social media and her online storefront long enough to review the scans and call her back. By the time Dr. Grunch responded, Bambi says she had already found a new provider. That subsequent evaluation showed her lumbar fusion had not healed the way it should have, raised new concerns about the Spinology hardware used in that surgery, and left her facing possible revision surgery. That's notable because Spinology is already a company publicly connected to the broader reporting surrounding Dr. Grunch. Again, I'm not making accusations. I am saying this is one patient story in her own words involving delayed infection management, delayed follow-up on new imaging after concerns were raised, and additional post-operative questions surrounding implant outcomes, especially when the same surgeon is already tied to public reporting about a DOJ investigation involving alleged illegal remuneration and medical necessity concerns. This is not about jealousy. This is not about haters. This is about a physician using online authority to monetize wellness products, industry relationships, and medical credibility while serious questions exist about hospital privileges, patient safety, transparency, and public trust. If Dr. Grunch wants to clear this up, it's very easy. State what happened with Dr. Schultz. State where you currently have active hospital privileges. State whether or not you can admit or continue care at a hospital if one of your ASC surgical patients has an emergency. Until then, I'm going to keep asking the obvious questions because never seen my haters here is a very interesting thing to say when here appears to be in the middle of a DOJ investigation for violating anti-kickback statutes and somewhere other than any hospital OR in the state of Georgia.